video is going to help you manage your child's difficult behaviour when they're grieving. Now, as we know and discussed in the other videos, when we are grieving or when we are highly anxious, our stress response is really high. We're going to be very quick to trigger into anger, into tears, into fighting back. If our body thinks we're in danger, then it's going to prime us for fight, running away, flight, or freezing. So at the moment, all of your bodies are priming you for those responses because your stress response is high. And in a child who's grieving, that can result in some very tricky behaviour. Typically, children who are feeling emotional, children who are feeling scared or worried, are feeling unsafe. The very notion of death is very uncertain. Coronavirus and the lockdown is very uncertain because we don't know when things are going to end. We don't know what things are going to be like when they do end. So often when children are feeling unsafe or things aren't certain, children will start to act out. They'll start to push against the boundaries that are usually in place to see if they're still there, because boundaries make children feel safer. Sometimes when we know our child is going through a really difficult time, it can be very tempting to let them off difficult behaviour, to make excuses as to why they're behaving that way. Now, there is a valid reason that they were having difficult behaviour, but what they actually need from us is to put in a really firm boundary and be consistent with what we're saying and what we're doing to actually make them feel safe. Now, one of the easiest ways to start doing this is to have a family kind of meeting where you can all discuss the fact that at the moment emotions are running very high, whether that's grief and the lockdown or the lockdown. The very fact that you're all on top of each other living at home and you haven't got the space that perhaps you need, or you haven't got the ability to go out, there's nowhere to escape, and it's a bit like a pressure cooker. So to sit down with your family and acknowledge that right now everyone's stress responses are high, everyone's finding life very tricky, and being on top of each other makes life harder. However, as a family, you're going to put something in place to make it easier for everybody. Now, you're going to make a set of rules, a set of family rules, so that your expectations of behaviour are really, really clear. You're going to write these rules down and stick them up somewhere that they can be referred to very easily and where the children can see them. So that might be your front room or your kitchen, wherever you feel is best. When you create these rules with your children, you're giving them a sense of control. You're giving them a sense of ownership. So it's going to be more effective if you sit down as a family and say, right, this is difficult, but how are we going to make it easier? Go one by one round the table. What are you finding difficult at the moment? What's stressing you out? And what do you need to make it better? Now, often with children that have siblings, they take it out on each other. So there might be a lot of bickering, a lot of teasing, some physical hurting. Maybe there's certain things that one child is doing to another that the other one's finding really difficult, so they're doing something back. And as you go around the table, they'll all have their chance to say, I don't like this, and I would like it to be like this. As a family, you can create that into a set of rules. Now, when we write rules, try to make them positive. So rather than do not hurt, do not kick, do what I say, they sound quite limiting and a bit negative. So if we can turn it around to have the same message, but in a positive wording, that's more successful. Children are going to follow it more. So rather than do what do what I say, you can say, so put it in the first person for the child, I will listen and do what you ask. Or, I will not hurt people's bodies. Okay? So we're making it more positive. Also make it very clear. So, be kind isn't specific enough. It's very difficult to know exactly what that means. So break it down into little components. So, I will speak nicely. I will be polite. I will not use rude language. I will be patient. I will not hurt somebody's body. Those are all the things that mean be kind, but they're more specific so everyone can see. So when you've all gone around the table and you've all agreed, so it might be things like, as a parent, you might say, I find it really frustrating that I'm asking you to do something and you're not listening. I'm having to ask you 5 times and you only listen when I get cross. You only listen when I shout, and I'm finding that very frustrating. So then you can say, my rule will be, for the children, I will listen to mum, I will listen to dad, and I will do what they ask the first time they ask me. That could be one. That might be a bit impossible for some children. So it might be, I will listen to mum and I will respond to her. So if a child just ignores you, break it down to what works for your family. But you'll all go around the table, have your chance to say what it is that you need, what it is that you don't like, and create this set of positive rules that all start with sentences, I will, because then every person in that family can relate to that. Then think about, what are the solutions to those? So if you have 2 children and one of them is getting very frustrated that the other keeps turning over the television and using the remote all the time, you can put in a rule about that. I will not turn over the telly when somebody else is watching a program. And then you can think, well, what are you going to do? If somebody's watching a program and you want to turn it over, the rule is you're not, so what are you going to do instead? So you can think and problem solve together. I will ask, I will go and play a game while I wait my turn, so that you're giving children the choices of what they can do instead. When it comes to things like if there's children are hurting each other, they're getting angry or frustrated and they're hurting, we put in the rule about we're not going to hurt people's bodies, and you can break that down if you like further. So what are you going to do instead when you're angry? Go and punch some cushions on the bed. Go and throw some cushions down the stairs. Find different things that are going to be acceptable to you that allow a child to get those big feelings out without hurting somebody else. Because we're in a lockdown situation, we can't go outside, we can't go and, do the things that might normally help. We're not getting space from each other. So you might have to do some things you probably wouldn't ordinarily do, like letting your child punch the pillows or something like that. But it's going to be a safe way for that child to relieve their frustration, but still follow the rules. You can also think about a set of consequences. So you have these rules, you've all sat down and agreed them. You've got some choices of what they can do instead for each of those rules. But if they're going to choose not to follow the rule, then they're going to choose not to do the solutions that you've all come up with together, then you can agree a set of consequences. Now that might be missing 15 minutes of their screen time. I'd suggest that rather than all their screen time, because if they do something and they break a rule and they've lost all their screen time, there's not really anything for them to work towards, or they might think, oh, well, I've lost it anyway, I might as well just carry on. So make it a smaller amount. You've lost 15 minutes of screen time, or you are, whatever it is for your family that makes sense, that doesn't involve humiliating the child or doesn't involve hurting them. So once you've done your rules, you've got some really clear boundaries in place. Everyone knows what's expected of them. They're on the wall. Everyone can see. So even though your child's stress response is high, even though they're feeling emotional, it's very clear that yes, you can have these emotions. Emotions are fine, but you cannot hurt someone. You cannot be rude. This is what you can do instead. Now, along with that, you're also going to be doing your activities that are going to calm the stress response and help your child to manage their emotions. Because we don't just want to punish them, we want to help them manage their emotions. So doing your mindfulness every morning and every evening. Throughout the day, if they're in a situation where they're breaking rules, that would suggest that they need some calming time. So invite them to come and have some time in with you. It's complete opposite to time out. Time out, a child's on their own. They're actually not thinking about their behaviour. They're just thinking about how they hate everybody. And actually it's not very useful for moving forward. So invite your child to come and have time in. That's when your child will spend 10 minutes with you, 15 minutes with you, and you'll do something together. Because in that way you're connecting together. You're giving them the attention they need to calm their stress response. So you might read a book, you might play a board game, you might do a puzzle. Now this isn't rewarding them for their behaviour, it's giving them what they need to bring their stress response down. Now when they've done that, when they're calmer, you can reinforce the rules. Go and look at the rules, look at the consequence. You did this, you chose to do this, now you've calmed down, let's talk about it. It's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. 15 minutes of screen time. So you're helping them, you're setting firm boundaries in, you're letting them know what behaviour is expected and what behaviour won't be accepted, but you're helping them to calm their stress response. And if you're also doing special time every day and you're doing mindfulness every day, you're going to be bringing their stress response down anyway. So it should all be done together. Okay? So children will act out. They will often act out at the people they love the most because they know that you're going to love them whatever. You're going to love them even though they're showing you their darker side. And that's safe and that's good, but there needs to be boundaries within that. You are allowed to be angry. It's okay to be furious. It's okay to be frustrated, but it's not okay to hurt your brother. Let's go and look at the rules. I will not hurt anyone's body. You've broken that rule. What should you have done instead? That's right, you could have come and told me your dad that they were frustrating you. Could have told your big sister. You could have walked away. You could have gone and done a mindfulness breathing activity on your own to calm down. You could have gone and punched the pillows on the bed. You chose not to do those things, so you're losing 15 minutes of your screen time later. Come with me now, let's go and do a mindfulness activity and help calm you down. Okay? So it might seem like a lot to do, but it doesn't take long to sit down and sort the rules out. And once you've done that, it's so clear to everybody what's expected of them. And when you're doing that on top of connecting through special time, through mindfulness, and engaging to bring the stress response down, things will be smoother. And remember, you're doing an amazing job. You're stuck in lockdown. This is something that is testing everyone's parenting limits. It's one of the hardest times that everyone has experienced. And we will look back on this and just be so impressed that we actually got through it. And it might be you need to break each down into hour by hour and just focus on getting through each hour. But it will get easier. As your stress response lowers, as your child's stress response lowers, it will eventually get easier. I hope this has been helpful for you. And remember, as always, all the adults at Earlham are thinking about you, and you are not on your own.